The online assessment module is what we use when we have questions to make because we want to understand something and we want to send those questions to someone. As you can see, I'm giving a fairly generic explanation of how this works, and it actually is that way. The online assessment questionnaire module works by you creating a questionnaire of any kind. You will create that questionnaire using a CSV file, so you can create that on a spreadsheet. You can have all sort of questions you want in there. They will be grouped by chapter, so you will create chapters. In every chapter you will have your questions, and you can have descriptions on your questions, and then the answers for those questions can be provided as an open answer, so people will basically write whatever they want as an answer, or you can have predefined answers that will be a drop-down, so people will be able to select from a drop-down, or you can have both of them, predefined answers and open answers. The idea is that, again, you make your own question. You can also define whether you want the questions shown or hidden. That is because you can do conditional questions. So when you're using drop-downs, for example, you can say, well, if they answer yes, then show this question, and if they no, hide it. In that way, you can make your questionnaire dynamic. When you are creating your questionnaires, you can also set a scoring for your questions. In that way, only when you're using drop-downs, you can calculate some scoring. So the score of the question is a certain amount of points, and if they answer one or the other ones, what we will do is we will multiply that score by a weight that you define for every possible answer. So if they reply for this question here, if they reply yes, that will be multiplied by this number. If they reply no, it will be multiplied by this number. In the end, you get a scoring for every question. So as you can see, the question is very, very flexible, and you can be asking things about anything. You could be asking your suppliers how they do things, and they will give you all that feedback. You could be asking your company how they manage data. So you could, if you're trying to assess how privacy works in your organization, you can send a questionnaire to every head of department, and you can gather that information from them. So the idea here is you send out those questionnaires. Now, once you have a questionnaire, what you do is you create an online assessment. So you see in here, I have a privacy questionnaire that I have. So this is the private questionnaire. And what I did is I sent that questionnaire to my different suppliers. So you see here, I have different suppliers that I decided to send these questionnaires to in order to get their feedback. So one questionnaire can be used in multiple assessments. Now, every one of these assessments will basically be sent to someone. And that's because an online assessment has two roles: the auditor, basically the person making the questions, and whoever has to answer those questions, the auditee. This can be one or more users. They will have local accounts into eramba. You can configure multiple notifications to be sent out. So when the online assessment has been sent, has been started, has been answered, many different notifications can be created and sent to these two roles at any point in time. You will have to create these notifications on your own. Now, once the email goes out, the auditee will click on that email and will go to what we call the online assessment portal. And that's a specific portal that is separate from eramba in some way, that users can access. You can see the URL of the portal here at any point in time, and every one of these online assessments will have its own specific portal URL because, of course, each one of them goes to their specific online assessments. So if I want to see, for example, this one here, and I go to the portal URL, what I see is the login of the online assessment portal. As you can see, it's a bit like logging into eramba. You will customize your logo to whatever you want, and the user will basically log in here, the auditee. So that's what I'm going to be doing now. I'm going to authenticate as if I will be the auditee. Now, as you can see, this auditee has only one questionnaire because the auditee could have more than one questionnaire waiting for them. I'm going to access in here, and what I see is how the portal looks like. As you can see, I have my 3 chapters. In every chapter, I have questions. In this case, I have here 1 questions, and at any point, I can submit. You can control when you submit or not. You could say, well, only allow submits once all the questions has been answered or not. There's 30 different attributes that you can configure. Every question will have the option of comments and attachments. This is typical. So if someone doesn't understand the question that they've been asked, they can basically say, hey, I don't understand. and that comment will then be sent as a notification to the auditor as well. So now they can go back and forward trying to clarify any kind of questions or evidence gathering as well. If the question is asking for evidence to be input, they can also use this in here. When the so as you can see here, I have a question. This is the question. This is the number of the question. This is the description of the question, and this is a drop down. Yes. So the drop down in here will basically in this case, is a conditional drop. And you see this, because I answer yes, this one here will show up. You can configure all these things by yourself, right? And this is an open answer field. As you go through your questions, you can go and answer the feedback. As you can see, the status bar will show you how much left you have ahead of you. And at some point, you will have to answer all your questions. So I'm going to answer something here. So we go and move forward. I'm going to answer this one as well. Right, so now I answer all the questions in this questionnaire and I can now submit. Once you submit the questionnaire, basically the person is done, and now from the backend you will see that the questionnaire is no longer accepting questions but has been stopped. Right, so what you can do now is you can review those questions on your own and you can see the feedback in here. So this questionnaire has 6 questions. If I click here and show, now I get to the feedback tab. Here's where you see all the answers that you have been given to your questions. Whenever you got a comment and attachment, remember is here. As you can see, I can see the comment that was provided by me now a minute ago. And here are the questions and the answers as well. And I get the scoring that has been achieved by that person for every question in here. When you review your questions, you can also log their answers. So that means no one will be able to make any modifications to whatever they have provided. So when I log in here and I change this to yes, on the portal, the question will not be, users will not be able to modify that questions anymore, right? You can also track findings if you want for your questions. So let's say that the answer you got for your question is not exactly what you wanted and you want to track a finding. Findings have a title, description, deadline, and who is involved with that. And again, you can send notifications against this deadline, so you do follow-ups. Every finding will have 1 or more comments, and this is typically used to track down some improvements that you identify through your online assessment that has to be taking place in your organizations. So you got findings, you got the answers of your questions, you have the questionnaires, and you got the online assessments. Now, when it comes to the online assessments, and again, this can be sent to anyone, third parties or people within your organization, at any point you also have reporting. So if I go here and I pull reports, I will pull the basic report available in here. So you see I have the name of the questionnaire, the status, the attributes of the questionnaire, the answers, questions by chapter, the score by chapter, the completed answers, and a few other charts in here as well, plus all the questions that were made and the answers as well. So this is a very simple report that allows you to get an idea on how that questionnaire went on. As any other module in eramba, you have filters, so you could say, create a filter, give me all the online assessments which will expire next week, or give me all the online assessments that have been answered already. Or you could create a filter on your feedback, give me all the answers which were responded yesterday. So there's many, many different ways in which you can use the filters to get that help you need to track down on all this feedback that you're going to receive. Any filter you create can be also sent as a notification. So if you create a filter, give me all the answers I got for all my open online assessments since last week, you can send that to you by email every week. And so you won't even have to log in into eramba, you will get that feedback automatically. As you can see, this is how it looks, the template that we use for the online assessments. The first 3 columns are the chapters of your questions. You can have 1 chapter or more, it doesn't matter. For every chapter, you will define 1 or more questions. So you have the question number, the question title, and the description of your question. Here's where you tell them what you want the answer to look like. So whether you want an open answer, drop down, or a combination of both. Whether the question is hidden or not. What the possible answers are, that's in case you're using drop-down, right? If you're using a drop-down, you need to tell what the options will be for the users, and you can see here the options. If it's an open answer, of course, that's not really applicable. You can also trigger warnings. So when you have the drop downs, you can set a warning. So in this case, you see if they say no, this is the warning that will be shown to the person answering your questions. If they say yes, there's no warning in here. So again, that makes the questionnaire a little bit more customized by you. When you're using drop downs, you can have scoring, the scoring weight, as I said before. And also when you're using drop downs, based on the answer they provide, you can show questions as well, right? So you can show and you hide questions as well. That's what allows you to do these questionnaires in a dynamic way. And then, of course, you can decide whether you want comments and attachments to be shown on your questions. Yeah, so your question with your comments or attachments. So once you create your questionnaires, you can then upload them directly into eramba.